I feel as if I know everything, but at the same time, knowing nothing. What's up, guys? That guy with a this pencil here. Fun fact: I didn't to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact: I have 15 minutes to tell you what.
Yes, me. It was me, brother, the tall, skinny man through the oats, and me.
I have 15 minutes to tell you my thoughts about the current state of Blue Lock, whether I like it, whether I don't, what I know, what I don't know, and why I feel it's also just variable, let's say. So let me start this timer right now. If I can find the 15 minutes, I can. But am I behind? Yeah, buddy. But, so, what's up, guys? I have it on me. I keep it on me at all times. And Blue Lock is in an interesting spot. Mainly because, like, everybody and their mama, including me and my mama, seem to know everything that's going to happen. We just don't know exactly how it's going to happen. And notably, we know everything that's going to happen, except we don't know how it's all going to happen on, like, multiple levels. Not just in the macro narrative, but in the micro narrative, which, honestly, at least for your boy, is kind of rare. Usually I can at least peer out into the grand scheme of the macro narrative and be like, yeah, buddy, I see a vision. I did that for the Neo Eaters League. You can look back at my earliest Blue Lock videos, my earliest Blue Lock reactions. I kind of called the macro narrative structure of the Neo Eaters League, and I wasn't wrong, except for one thing, and that was Nagi. So ultimately, I got most of it right. But for the U20 World Cup arc, for this madness, this craziness, this insanity of an arc, I feel like I truly know everything and nothing. I know everything in the sense that, at least for this first stage we're in, the group stage. But in the group stage that we're in, I think it's pretty obvious how things are gonna go down. Blue Lock is gonna beat Nigeria. They're gonna lose to France. They're gonna beat and or tie with England. Notably, I've seen a lot of people say tie. I'm leaning towards a tie just to show that the world is actually dangerous, especially considering how badly Nigeria's been getting whooped these last 3 chapters. So ultimately, I think it's fine for it to be a tie with England, because with a goal differential presumably being born of Nigeria growing stronger up this match and then being able to high diff England, at least I think likely still beating them, unfortunately, then it could literally be win, loss, tie for both of those teams, but Blue Lock has more goals because they're a striker-focused team. Thusly, they get further. They get to go on. They escape the group stage along with France. Right? That makes sense. And also, I think everybody and their mama, including my mom, also knows that, like, it's not guaranteed that Blue Lock is going to make it to the finals. But they have to make it to the finals, right? Like, at least the final match. Obviously, they don't have to win, though. And that's the whole idea of variables, right? Because ultimately, in the macro narrative sense, or even technically the micro with the group stage right now, because the group stage is only one part of the entire U20 World Cup arc, we know that Nigeria is going to lose. But, like, how they're going to lose and who they're going to lose to is kind of the crazy thing that's blowing me and everybody away. If you were to tell me that big, bad, beefy, juicy, what is even that word? Scumyum's boy Bachara was going to score the first goal of the Neo Eaters League, I would have laughed. But here we are. And then not only that, if you were to look me directly in my big ol' eyeballs and tell me, hey, Pencil Man, not only is Rayo going to score the first goal, no, there it is, I messed it up, but not only is Bachara going to score the first goal of the Neo Eaters League, but then Rayo is going to come in and then violate Nigeria in about a chapter and a half, if not really like half a chapter, I would be like, I really think you just joshing me. You're pulling my leg. You're tickling my toe. But it happened. It happened. We have Hisagi talking as spooky as possible. And the man's done nothing. He's touched the ball like once. And he's talking out here like, because I'm here, you will fall and fail. Don't worry, for you will know it's not fine. Because I am here right now. What? Mr. Yoichi, since when on earth could you talk this spooky? Like, legitimately. And nothing's happened yet. He hasn't done anything all too crazy. Obviously, he's facilitated the offense and the defense a little bit, but, like, he's talking this spooky, hasn't even scored yet. But he probably will score. And now that's the thing about not knowing the micro narrative despite knowing the micro narrative. On the micro sense, I don't know how badly Nigeria's going to get blown out. Because, y'all, we're not even 5 chapters deep into the match from kickoff, and Nigeria's already attempting a backstory buff. This is land speed timing. This is some record you're I don't even think Noruhaya got a backstory buff or attempted backstory buff this quickly. But here we are, 5 chapters deep. Not even really 4 chapters deep, considering 314 was 2 parts. And they're already going for backstory? and Isagi's already shooting it down. Like, we're moving kind of spooky, kind of crazy, kind of cleanly. And cleanly to the point where I know that Nigeria's going to win, but how bad is it going to be? If Rayo and Batra are scoring in the first 5 chapters, who else is going to? Are there going to be multi-goals? Is the backstory going to work at all? I don't know, and that's a good thing. You may be like, okay, Pencil Man, you're talking on this micro-narrative stuff, all this, that, and the third. It sounds neat, it sounds nice, it sounds interesting, but what on earth are you talking about? Elaborate. And to elaborate, I say this. Ultimately, me not knowing what's going to happen, despite knowing what's going to happen, is a good thing. And it's the exact same praise I give to the new Aegis League. In my opinion, the new Aegis League was kind of predictable, especially by the time of Manshine when I started recording. But even before that, I was just catching up to Blue Lock before I actually started doing videos for it. I kind of like read not Manshine, read the new Aegis League a little bit. Like, oh, okay, so it's going to go this way, that way, the third way. 4-game narrative structure, you saw Kai's the main characters. I could see that vision. But ultimately, execution-wise, I got very little of it right, especially that last part. Especially 9. So ultimately, that idea of being engaged enough in the narrative where I can kind of see the vision, where my own metavision is glowing brightly in my eyes, yet at the same time, I don't know exactly how it's going to go, is kind of that perfect sweet spot that I think most authors want to hit. Where, like, the narrative has been written well enough and positioned well enough that everything that is happening makes sense, yet at the same time, I still don't fully know how it's going to make sense. So, sitting here with you, I cannot tell you in the same way that I thought that this was going to be a blowout game, but I don't know who's going to score. I can still tell you that I think it's going to probably be a pretty bad blowout. I still don't think Nigeria's going to really be calm, but I can't tell how badly they're not going to be calm. And this extends to the macro narrative as well. Ultimately, as convinced as I am that they're going to lose to France and they're going to either tie or beat England, because of the community, I'm going to heavily lean towards tie, because why introduce a tie mechanic if you're not going to use it, especially in the group stage, where I think that's the only time it's viable. I don't think you can tie in the actual elimination games. I don't know how that would work. So like, maybe you can tie there, maybe you can only tie in the group stage. So essentially, you got to use that mechanic while we have it. But on that macro sense, I can't even tell you who I think is going to be in the finals. Like, we have 3 separate options. We have France, who has Loki and Charles. We have Spain, who has Bunny. I made the mistake in the review. I called him Luda because my character's mixed up. Bunny Iglesias, who obviously has the direct beef with Say. So, like, there's that whole idea. And then there's Germany, which has Kaiser and Ness. And Eric and Grimm, but Kaiser and Ness, also 2 very important characters. I have no idea how that's going to work out. None of those major teams outside of France, who we know is going to stomp Blue Lock's back out, ended up in the group stage with them. So, like, I don't know. That sort of uncertainty, yet knowledge, is actually amazing. It makes me heavily invested, not just in the short term, but in the long term, and I think that's important, right? Because, like, especially for a narrative that is structured like Blue Lock, right? Where it's not Dragon Ball, it's not Naruto, it's not a typical shonen where, like, we're gonna get a new crazy addition to the power system, or another species to fight, or another new random villain that can do different things than the previous villain, or just evolve what the previous villain could do. Like, no! This is a soccer manga. This is a sports manga. One way or another, ball will end up in net after moving up and down the same field, however many times. So the best way to keep someone, including your boy, who doesn't actually care that much, if at all, about football, involved in the football manga, is have me in this weird narrative, like, I don't want to call it a narrative Ouroboros, because that implies, like, the narrative is consuming itself, which I guess you could argue it is in, like, a weird roundabout way, but notably, I don't think the narrative is consuming itself. I think what the narrative is doing, and what kind of Shiro Sensei specifically is doing, is laying out all these pieces, just putting them on the table in front, and then being like, arrange them however you think. And notably, he already knows how he's going to arrange them. Obviously, I'm assuming kind of Shiro Sensei, especially, probably for, like, the whole of Blue Lock, but at least for the U20 arc, definitely already has who the final match is going to be, who the semifinals are going to be, who the quarterfinals are going to be, who's going to win it, who's going to lose, who's going to be the most valuable player, who's not going to be, whether that's Asagi or not. Like, legitimately, it's likely that kind of Shiro Sensei already has that all laid out. But what they've done so far is lay out all these pieces in front of us, in front of the community, and be like, it's like, what do you think is going to happen? Huh? Like, what can happen? Ultimately, if you had to ask me, was France even going to end up in the group stage before that was revealed? I didn't think so. I didn't think we were touching France for forever. But no, now we're dealing with them. And of course, that leads to the idea of France stomping Blue Lock, but at the same time, Who knows? I, once again, had no idea that Ryo Mikage was going to come out the cut and start cooking instantaneously. I had no idea that a certain Bachiro Meguru was going to come out the cut and immediately start cooking. I had no idea that Isagi Yoichi wasn't going to do anything more than touch the ball once or twice and act as a gravitational pull. I literally just had no idea. I did not have on my bingo card, on my docket, Isagi Yoichi, not even a whole chapter into the game, looking at the entire pitch and saying, data acquisition complete. I've transcended y'all. Transcended? In the first chat, it's not even here. Because once again, I tried to do for the current state of things, I tried to do the last 3 chapters. But essentially, I'm going into the idea that so many things are simultaneously as I expected, yet not as I expected. And ultimately, I think that's good. And I think what works for right now, right? Because you may be wondering, okay, Pencil Man, you're talking with the group stage as the micro narrative, talking about the whole U20 World Cup arc as the macro narrative. But like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about the execution of the micro narrative? We're talking in very like large narrative terms. On the small scale, how do you feel about it? Honestly, if you had to ask me genuinely, which presumably you're here for, I think it is a net good thing on how it's being presented so far. Of course, does it hurt my Nigerian heart to see my people get absolutely terrorized by Japan? Absolutely. Undeniably. My heart is aching right now. But with that being the case, I am appreciating how it's being portrayed only because it makes sense and because of how the rest of the narrative is structured. I kind of wouldn't want it any other way. If there's any match in the entire U20 World Cup arc that should be a showcase match, it should be this one. It should be the first one. It should be the opener. And the reason I think it works so well, and I know I'm going back to the macro narrative and the larger micro narrative, but hey, I can't help it. That's kind of how my brain is functioning right now. I ultimately see this being the only easy match, the only stomp match, the one match to actually show off characters that are going to be the basis, the foundation, essentially build that solid structure for the rest of the arc to build upon. Whether that be showing what our characters can do, showing what our characters can't do, and showing that the world is powerful, but Blue Lock is not out of the scope of it. Blue Lock has taken it into account. Blue Lock has it in their bag to actually know a pretty decent chunk, because they've seen a thing or two. Ultimately, it all makes sense. I would, in fact, be a bit more disappointed if we immediately went back to the high diffs. Because ultimately, the way I look at this arc, fundamentally, is still as something of a pace break. Or at least the opening of the arc specifically. Something as a pace break, something as sort of a relaxer to the end of the New Aegis League. Sure, it did feel like forever between the end of the New Aegis League and the start of the U20 World Cup arc, but realistically, it was what? 10 chapters? Not even a quarter of a year that we had between the final goal of the New Aegis League and then the start of the U20 World Cup arc? We still just came from a bunch of hiatus, came from a bunch of extreme energies and loss of, I almost said loss of life, but essentially loss of goals, loss of scoring opportunities, scored goals. Like, we had so much high intensity stuff that ultimately this more chaotic yet focused beating of Nigeria, while it hurts my Nigerian heart, it works. This is a Blue Lock that has experienced the world in more ways than one. This is an Isagi Yoichi who went out, studied the world itself, an Isagi Yoichi who went out, competed with some of the best the world had to offer, the best U20 New Gen World 11 members. He fought Kaiser, he fought Lorenzo, he went against Sei previously. Like, it would only make sense for a team like Nigeria, which hasn't had that same experience, to lose. And to lose pretty badly. So ultimately, this simultaneously, despite being the first game of the arc, feels sort of like a, not a send-off. Send-off is the wrong word here. What's the word I'm looking for? If not a send-off, it feels like a celebration of all of Blue Lock up to this point. Taking characters who were, for the longest time, sort of side characters, or at best deuteragonists, such as your Rayos, such as your Bachiras. Taking these characters and showing that, oh no, everyone's relevant, everyone's got buffed, and everyone's devious, dangerous, and diabolical. Don't you worry, I'm happy. I'm happy that I don't gotta worry. That every single character is going to have their shine. Every single character is going to show out. I was admittedly, in the back of my heart, kind of worried that certain characters wouldn't get a spotlight. But everyone's getting spotlights, dog. There is no way that, not just on offense, but on defense, you could have told me that the team that is all about their physicals was going to be getting manhandled, including their ace, is going to get manhandled by Ryu, and then out-muscled by Nika. I just want to believe you, but it's here. It's happening. And while there are these variables, I don't know if Blue Lock's going to win the U20 World Cup arc. I don't know if they're going to lose. I don't know who they're going to face in the final match. I don't know whether or not they'll be able to face anyone in the quarterfinals or the semifinals, or they'll make it that far. I have no idea. but I feel like I have an idea. And that perfect dichotomy, that balance where I'm on the edge of my seat each chapter, trying to figure out who's going to score next, who's going to have a crazy play next, who's going to do this, who is going to do what, because all of Blue Lock feels viable, all of Blue Lock feels threatening, all of Blue Lock is threatening, viable, and dangerous. That is beautiful. To have a cast this heavily stuffed, 11 players in the pitch that we've been following for years at this point, and numerous more characters on the bench that we've been following for years at this point, and to finally see them all have their time to shine and show out against the very world, it's beautiful. The current state of Blue Lock is cooking with straight gas, and I'm excited to see it keep cooking week after week after week, because of course, you know it's gonna be peak. But of course, those are my thoughts on the current state of Blue Lock. I'm pretty much entirely positive with like no negative critiques ever, just with the Nagi stuff. So ultimately, I'm real happy. But what do you think? Please let me know in the comment section down below. But of course, I've run out of time, so if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave more than nothing. More than nothing in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notifications so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you do have a Patreon below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. And things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. So now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So let's conclude live reactions. You have this exam to review, add reactions of all my videos, and if you come to $12 Patreon or $12 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also a link to my Ko-Fi in the description below. Reach out 5 minutes for a short video, 20 minutes long video, or any reason. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, Brandon Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Buddha Ura, Alex Kenny, Enzo, Swift Strike, Autumn Mornings Lazo, Super Flame Zero, Yuki Ally, Azo2404, and G Prosper. I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: Victor Raji, Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin Encarnacion, Dreads Owen, and A+A. I'd like to give a big old thank you to our Ink tier members: Austin Wimberly, Eugia, and Shrimpo the Shrimp. And I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members: Jay Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Waki Munoz and Waki Munoz.